Alright, I normally don't talk about add-on modules except to explain how it might look different from the default Foundry experience, but one module I do want to talk about is Moulinette, because Moulinette is extremely useful. You will notice that Moulinette also has a soundboard. I'm not going to talk about that, and I'm also not going to talk about linking Patreon, though Moulinette has a tutorial about that, or reloading, or any of these settings here about importing and pinning, because that's pretty self-explanatory. But let's talk about Moulinette. Moulinette is a way to access content that's both indexes local data and also allows you to access the cloud. So let's click this first window, icons. This lets you find a bunch of icons. And so let's say I want to find a sword icon. This will find a bunch of icons from gameicons.net that are able to be used without any requirements. And because of that, you're able to grab all of these and put them in. These work particularly well for those journal entries I was talking about a few videos ago, where you can set that tile to be something. These are all usually SVGs, so they scale pretty well. That is something you can do. Image search, let's say you want to have a reference image. You'll notice here that there are two searches here, Creative Commons and Bing search. So let's say Creative Commons, we want build. And then I can do that. And then you'll notice that I can actually drop these in different modes, tile, article, and token. So if I drag it as a tile, this will come into my scene as a tile. If I drag it as an article, it will appear, I believe, as a journal note. And if I drag it as a token, it will generate a blank actor datasheet that I can then modify. I don't actually want to drag something out from here, so I'm not going to. The next is prefabs. You'll notice that I have some of these available through Moulinette, from Bailey Wikis, Impeku, Demille's Wondrous Works, and Venatus Maps. Let's take a look at Venatus Maps, because I think this is one of the interesting things that works with the Frozen Laboratory module specifically, is that these are actually static creatures. You can drag them out, they appear, and you'll notice that it rolled for hit points because of a module I have, and it has all the appropriate abilities and all of that already built. That is something that prefabs can do. There aren't many people who take advantage of that right now. You'll notice that these are the big prefabs that use units. The majority of prefabs right now are Bailey Wiki prefabs, which are basically rooms you can drag out into your maps. They're very useful for making custom maps. They function a little bit differently than, say, this prefab, but as more content creators support Moulinette, you'll see more and more content in that prefabs category. But that is interesting, worth noting. Generally, you would be using this for building scenes. So if I wanted to add, an archer's post to this scene, which kind of doesn't fit the theme of this open plaza, I can drag this out. And you'll notice that takes some time to download because this is accessing a remote server. You'll notice it has light sources, it has walls, and this uses token attacher. So you'll notice that as that finished up, there was a message that appeared that said token attacher processing has finished. It's important to wait for that message because token attacher lets you move a bunch of things simultaneously. Ooh, there we go. Oh, that really is not good. I wonder why it's not doing that properly. Sometimes token attacher has a heart attack, and I think what's happening is that this particular prefab might have something that's interacting with this map in a way that is not great. You can see that it's supposed to be moving the light source and the walls. The walls aren't showing up properly because I was I was on the wrong layer when I imported this for the walls to show up, right? But you'll notice it's moving that light source that is set to display because of DF Architect. And then if I want to get rid of this, I can just hit delete and it will clear the prefab. That has to do with token attacher. We won't talk about that. Scenes, you'll notice that I also have a lot of scenes in here. Those all come from Patreon, so you'll have access to more if you support Moulinette and other content creators on Patreon. But we'll also index local scenes, so you'll notice that I have, for example, some Zimpeku modules installed, and it will index those scenes locally as well, and I could import the scene, and it would show up in my scene directory under Moulinette. So, for example, I've imported some scenes through Moulinette. So if I go to Zimpeku, you'll see the Chthonic Lighthouse scene, and that folder is actually empty because I moved that to a different folder for organization purposes, but that's how it would look if I had imported one of these. So you'll notice that it says it's downloading images in the background. This is actually locally from a module, so it isn't downloading And then you'll see that I have this scene ready to go, and I can just click to it and it has walls, everything pre-configured. So that can be very useful if you have something like that. Let's go back to this demonstration map, and you'll notice the thumbnail for that map is old because I was originally going to do this with a different map, but I didn't like the way the grid laid on that map, so I can regenerate the thumbnail now real quick. Sounds are also something you can grab. I don't have as many sounds here, but it does have the ability to search for the sound effects from the BBC. So if you have, if you're looking for a fairly generic sound effect, you can find it. It also has sound effects for the various maps that are supported. So if you want to bring, something in from another map, you can bring it into a map and just drag it across. Tiles are the last feature of Moulinette. You'll notice that this keeps which category you're in when you switch, unless that category is not present. If I go to all packs, I can search here, or I can go in a specific patch. So let's say I want to use Tom Curtis's floors again. I would scroll down, and this is locally indexed. This isn't how it would look if you were getting it through the cloud. I go TC floor patterns, and you'll recognize this one from the one I used earlier when I manually navigated to that folder where I had Moulinette indexing. So that's the rundown of Moulinette. Moulinette is very useful for making quick tweaks to encounters because of its indexing being searchable. You can store all these files locally and use the built-in Foundry file browser. I think it's much, much easier to use Moulinette and have that indexing search available. And you can also do things like change the sorting type. So you'll notice this is actually true in many other things in Foundry as well. Search between list view, thumbnail view, and tiles view. So if I say look for a roof, you'll see all these roofs. I can switch it to the thumbnail view, which will sort them by categories. This is indexed kind of badly, but you'll notice like this is the subcategory of those roofs. So it will tell me, what category it's from. So if I was looking for consistency in what I was dragging out, I could find all the ones from this particular set, and that way I know they're the same blue towers. If I search for blue towers, it might grab from another module I have indexed, but by going from that one set, it's going to be consistent in art style and things like that. Or alternatively, you can just do list view, which lets you pop out those folders individually. I personally prefer this tile view, or the thumbnail view, sorry, because it keeps things together, but it also allows you to browse a little more comfortably than having to pop all those folders out. But again, here you can also drop things out as tiles, articles, and tokens. Even though this is designed to be tiles, you can drop them out as tokens. The only important things to remember is that only image search and tiles have that differentiation. Icons does not, so you can download them. Prefabs will drag out an actor with attachments, and scenes will import scenes. And sounds will import sounds as well. So that is worth mentioning. But that is a brief rundown of Moulinette, and hopefully that will be useful as you use Moulinette to build scenes and add tiles, and in certain cases maybe even add prefabs with monsters or with light sources into things to make your scenes feel more alive.